Hi students and learning coaches, welcome to Literature and Comprehension. Today we're going to be looking at Unit 23, which is entitled Hot and Cold. We will be looking at the first 3 lessons, which will be based on a magazine article entitled Hot and Cold. You will need the following supplies. You will need your K-12 magazine, which is called K-12 World, and this magazine is entitled Our Busy Bodies, and this is where you will locate the article Hot and Cold that our first 3 lessons will be talking about today. You will also need your Language Arts Lesson Guide, Book 2, which is where you will find your Literature and Comprehension Lesson Guide for the first 3 lessons, or you may also choose to use the lesson guide that is provided online, which is what I am going to be using. So we're going to look at lesson number 1 first. It is the introduction lesson for our magazine article, Hot and Cold. We're in Unit 23, which is based around things that are hot and cold. And we're going to look at the lesson guide for lesson number 1. And in lesson number 1, you will be doing the following activities. You will have a get ready activity where we will talk about main idea and words to know in our article Hot and Cold. We will do a book walk through the article, and we will also learning coaches, you will read the article Hot and Cold to your student. Our last activity for lesson 1 is a check your reading activity, where there will be some comprehension questions that the students can answer to see if they understood what was being told to them in the magazine article. So our first activity is our Get Ready activity, where we're going to talk about main idea. And our magazine article is going to have a main idea, which means that it's going to be mostly about one thing. And you're going to have to listen carefully as your learning coach reads you the article so that you can figure out what the main idea is, or what the article is mostly about. This magazine article is about real things, and another word for real things is facts. So you're going to be reading a magazine article which is considered non-fiction. It is about real things, which is very different from fiction writing, which is what our storybooks are usually. They are usually about made-up characters and events. But the magazine article that you're going to be looking at today is considered nonfiction. It is about real things, and another word for real things is fact. So we're going to practice figuring out what a main idea is. So I'm going to read to you a short paragraph, and I want you to see if you can figure out what the main idea of my paragraph is. Water is interesting. When water gets really cold, it turns into ice. And when water gets really hot, it turns into steam. When ice melts or steam cools off, it turns back into water. Students, what do you think this text is mostly about? What was I mostly talking about in this little paragraph? Tell your learning coach. If you told them that the text was mostly about water, you would be correct. So the main idea of this paragraph is that the main idea is water. We learned all kinds of things about water. All right, let's look at another paragraph and see if we can practice figuring out the main idea. Ice can be used many ways. You can add ice to lemonade to keep it cold. You can put ice on a sprained ankle to make the swelling go down. Did you know that a snow cone is made out of crushed ice? Now, which of the following, I'm going to give you some choices so for you to figure out what the main idea is. Which of the following tells the main idea or what the text is mostly about? A, ice can be used in many ways. B, you can put ice in lemonade. C, you can make snow cones with ice. Tell your learning coach, what do you think the main idea is? Which one of those is the main idea? If you told your learning coach that ice can be used in many ways, you are correct. And the paragraph told many ways that ice can be used. It can be made, add ice to lemonade to keep it cold. You can put ice on a sprained ankle to make the swelling go down. and then you can also use ice to make a snow cone. So we talked mostly about ice and how it can be used in many different ways. So as you're listening to your learning coach read the article today, I want you to be thinking about what the main idea of the article is. So before I pause the video, let's look at the words that you're going to see in the article hot and cold. One of those words is the word opposite. Opposite is a thing that is completely different from another. For example, big is the opposite of small. You're also going to see the phrase sense of touch, which is one of the 5 senses. The sense used to tell what something feels like. So using your hands to touch something, that's your sense of touch. And also going to talk about the senses, the body's ability to see, smell, hear, touch, and taste. So the article is going to talk about your 5 senses. So now let's take our magazine article and we're going to do a book walk through it. We're going to look for the table of contents. We're going to look for the title of the article that we're going to be reading today. And we're going to be looking at the pictures and other things in our magazine article. So if you have your magazine, let's look at, you should have the magazine entitled K-12, Our Busy Bodies. We're first going to find the table of contents. So if you open it up, you will find the table of contents. And we are looking for the magazine article hot and cold. So run your finger down until you see hot and cold. It begins on page 28. So let's turn to page 28. On page 28, let's see if we can find the title. Everybody point to the title of the article. It's called Hot and Cold. Now let's just look at the different pictures. Look at the pictures here. I see pictures of fire. I see a picture of a little girl in the snow. On this page, I see a picture of a little boy, and they're showing you the senses of see and smell, which is what your nose does, taste, which is what your mouth does. We see with our eyes. Our sense of touch, we use our hands. Our sense of our hearing, we use our ears. So look at all the pictures. On this page here, they're showing you some foods that are hot and cold. You have some ice cream that would be considered cold. You have some soup that would, most of the time we eat it hot. And then we see some activities that we might do when it's hot, some activities that we might do when it's cold. You see some other foods that are hot and cold. We have more pictures of children eating foods that are hot and cold. We have some activities that we would do on a hot day, going to the beach. Have a little girl taking a bath, talking about how you like your bath water, hot or cold. And showing you some more pictures of hot chocolate and cold lemonade. So as we're looking at this article, we can tell that we're going to be reading about things that are hot and cold. So I'm going to pause the video so that your learning coach can read to you the article hot and cold. Okay, now, learning coaches, there are some questions I'm going to ask your student, and these questions are found in your learning guide, and so you can follow along, and then the answers are given in pink. All right, students, how can you tell if a food is hot or cold? If you told your learning coach you can use your sense of touch, or you can use your hands, or you can use your lips and tongues to figure out if a food is hot or cold. You are correct. Next question, is a bowl of soup usually hot or cold? If you told your learning coach that a bowl of soup is usually hot, you are correct. Is a bowl of ice cream hot or cold? If you told your learning coach that it's cold, you are correct. What is this article mostly about? What's the main idea of this article? If you told your learning coach it's about hot and cold things and that we can use our sense of touch to figure out if something is hot or cold, you would be correct. Is this article hot and cold about real or made up things? If you told your learning coach it was about real things or facts, which are real things, you are correct. How can we tell? It tells facts about how we feel things that are hot or cold. It's not a made-up story. What do we call a text like this article, which is about how we use our sense of touch? What do we call an article that is about real things? We call that non-fiction, which is different than fiction, which fiction is like a storybook, which is about made-up characters and things that really can't happen, that we just read for enjoyment, where a non-fiction article gives us information about real things. Learning coaches, if your students had a hard time answering some of those questions, you may want to go back and reread the article and check out the answers, point out the answers to your student. And that is the end of Lesson 1. Thank you so much for joining me.